Are you ready to elevate your fantasy team? Here is Joey the Tooth with your IDP update. If it's not IDP, it's not fantasy football.
Welcome back to the IDP update with Joey the Tooth. Sorry for the delay. I've been away for a little bit. I got hit with a tropical storm, lost power for 5 straight days. That was absolutely miserable. But it's okay. Me and the wife made it through it. We were able to get bottles warm for the little one, our 5-month-old Autumn Claire. She's a beauty. We were able to get bottles warm, got an AC going because it was like 90 degrees outside. But with that said, everybody's good, everybody's healthy, everybody's happy. We got power back. We're good to go. We had power crews all throughout here from all over. I mean, I live in Connecticut. We had Michigan, Canada. It's crazy. It was the first tropical storm we got hit with in 9 years. At least that was a lot of damage. But either way, we're good. I've been spending a lot of time with my beautiful wife and my wonderful kid. So it's off season, so I've taken a little bit of time in between episodes, but here I'm coming to get back at you because I am going to give you as much content as I possibly can. I mean, I am dedicated to helping you out with your IDP, and today's no different. We're going to start with covering the first part of I'm going to do a little series. It's going to be the rookie linebackers. There's a lot of them to cover. So this week I'm going to cover the ones who actually have relevancy possibly for year one. So there was, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 linebackers, 9 linebackers, drafted in the first 3 rounds, all of which have an opportunity to have year one relevancy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to break down each guy's situation for you, and I'm going to tell you who my favorite values are and who you should be targeting. So without further ado, I'm going to take a quick commercial break for our sponsor, and I'll be right back with you. Let me take a minute to explain to you about Anchor. If you haven't heard of it at all, just give me a couple minutes to express some experience. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and be like me, Joey the Tooth. All right, welcome back. Let's talk with the first man selected. We're talking about Isaiah Simmons. He was taken 8th overall by the Arizona Cardinals. Kind of a surprise move, you think, after the moves they made in the offseason, but we'll get to that. Let's look at his career stats in college. Let's see, he was a full-time starter for his sophomore and junior years. He was a redshirt freshman. He has 238 tackles total for his career, 28.5 for a loss, 11 sacks, 4 interceptions, 20 passes defended, 6 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. Now, look at his junior year where he was unbelievable. He's so versatile. He had 104 tackles, 16.5 for a loss, 8 sacks, 3 interceptions, 8 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. That's incredibly impressive. So he was possibly one of the best cover guys for the team, and Isaiah Simmons actually lined up most of the season at cornerback. Like, he spent the most time at cornerback of any position, but he also lined up a linebacker. He played outside linebacker. He played safety. He pretty much did whatever the team needed him to do. He's what people like to call a unicorn. He does everything. So I was a little low on the selection at first by the Cardinals because they had Jordan Hicks, who just came off of 150 tackle season. They also went and signed Devondre Campbell, who's coming off a 129 tackle season of himself. He actually seemed to steal tackles from Deion Jones, who I'm huge on. But then they also have Budda Baker, who has had 147 tackles himself last year. So you add that up and you have over 400 tackles just between those three players. So where does Isaiah Simmons fit? So, excuse me. I originally thought that they would play him more as like a money backer position, like they used to run with Deion Buchanan years back. The update we've been hearing is that they're going to spend more time with him at linebacker, and they're going to try to focus in more on one position for him. Now, what he's almost surely going to do is cover the tight ends, and it's a pretty good tight end position conference he's in, or division he's in. So he's going to have George Kittle twice. He's going to have Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett twice. He's going to have Greg Olsen, Will Dissly twice. So he's going to be busy in coverage for the linebackers, which says a lot because Jordan Hicks is one of the better coverage linebackers in the league, but he's going to be spending his time running the defense. Now, he's being drafted in rookie drafts as the 16th pick overall. So that's at the beginning of the second round of rookie drafts in 12-team leagues. That's a little high for me considering the 400 tackles between the other three players. So I'm honestly passing on Isaiah Simmons. I love him. I think he's probably the best defender, at least him and Chase Young. It's a tight race for the best defender out of this draft. But his ADP is way too high for me. And with the situation he's in, I'm just going to hold off for a little bit. So do what you want with that. He's the second linebacker going off the board, but there's so much offensive talent in this draft that I'm going to wait on him. The second linebacker who is taken in this year's draft, Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma. He was drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers, 23rd overall in the first round. Let's look at his college career a little bit. So he was a full-time player his sophomore and junior seasons. His sophomore season was unbelievable when you look at his tackle numbers. He had 155 total tackles, 12.5 for a loss, 4.5 sacks. He followed that up with 102 tackles, 17 for a loss, and 4 sacks. That's unbelievable. So he's got a career 36.5 tackles for a loss, 9.5 sacks. So he spends a lot of time in the backfield. The problem is, I understand the Chargers traded up for him, so they obviously have plans for him. They do. But the Chargers have kind of a murky linebacker situation. You could see it dated back to last season. So they had Thomas Davis, veteran Thomas Davis. He played, I believe it was 83% of the snaps. No other linebacker on the team played more than 38%. So they run so many situational lineups that it's kind of tough to gauge where to take them. So I believe that Kenneth Murray, it's going to be between Kenneth Murray and I think Drew Tranquill, who's going to be that 80% guy. And the next one, it's probably going to be more than 30-something percent, probably more closer to the 50, but I'm still iffy. They still have Denzel Perriman, who's probably going to be in blitz packages and run packages. They have Uchenna Nwosu, who's obviously going to be in pass rushing situations because he's more of an outside linebacker. They have Tranquill. He can cover. He can do everything, just I think to a smaller scale. I think he's a better cover guy than Kenneth Murray, but Kenneth Murray's better sideline to sideline. He's more athletic and better tackler. They also have Kaiser White, who showed in limited time that he's a part of the defense. It's just tough to say. So Murray's probably going to be that 80% guy, but if I'm drafting him, so he's going as the 21st pick in rookie drafts. That's at the tail end of the second round. That's still too early for me to take a linebacker right now, especially with so much value later in the draft. especially for a guy who possibly has a cap at 80% of snaps. So I'm going to wait a little bit even more. Like Kenneth Murray, they traded up for him. They have great plans for him. But at 80% of snaps, I'm not going to pass up on all the other offensive talent just to get a part-time player. So let's move on to the next linebacker taken, so I'm just going to put this out there. I'm a 49ers fan. I love watching Seahawks drafts. They're terrible. I mean, they come out with some decent talent, but they throw picks to the wind. They draft what they don't need. And they did it again in the first round in the 2020 draft. They selected Jordan Brooks out of Texas Tech. I'm not taking anything away from Jordan Brooks. He's a fine player. Last year, the Seahawks drafted Cody Barton in, I believe, the 3rd. And then they grabbed Ben Burr-Kirven later in the draft, I think in the 5th. They also still have KJ Wright, who just signed an extension for 2 more years, as well as Bobby Wagner, who is one of the top linebackers in the league. So now you have a very, very cluttered linebacker group. And I assume that Cody Barton's still going to get some time. I think he'll be on the strong side. I think KJ Wright plays weak side and Bobby Wagner plays middle. There's been talk of even more linebackers on the field. I heard the coach say, which not a fan of coach, but he said something to the interest of starting 4 linebackers, and because of Jordan Brooks' quote unquote versatility. Let's look at his college resume a little bit. Jordan Brooks, he was a 4-year starter, but he didn't really jump out until his senior year. His senior year, he was great. He had 108 tackles, a whopping 20 for a loss, and 3 sacks. Does not offer much in coverage. So he had 0 passes defended and only 6 in the 3 years prior. He has 2 interceptions to his career, so he's definitely not going to be a guy who drops in coverage for you. So I don't see Jordan Brooks as a 3-down linebacker. So here we run into the same situation as we did with Kenneth Murray. So Kenneth Murray is a situational linebacker. Jordan Brooks is definitely, at least for his first, maybe even second year, also going to be a situational linebacker. KJ Wright last season still had a great season. So he's not going anywhere. They're not going to give up on him, especially because they do have a very talented roster. They have a chance of making an actual Super Bowl push. So they're not going to just throw KJ Wright to the wind just because they have a couple of young guys that they want to try out. So Jordan Brooks is going at pick 35. So he's almost the tail end of the 3rd round. Still, 3rd round, you can get guys like Chase Claypool, Brian Edwards. I mean, they're much more valuable right now, and possibly even for the future, than Jordan Brooks. So Jordan Brooks is the 5th linebacker being taken. I personally am staying completely away from him. I don't even really want to stash him. And it's not because I don't like the Seahawks, but it's because of the situation he got drafted into. And who knows, with the Seahawks next year, they could be drafting their linebacker of the future again in the 1st round. So I've given up trying to figure out what the Seahawks do in the draft. And then actually they even traded for Jamal Adams, and they gave up way too much. So who knows what they're here. There's another draft blunder for the Seahawks. Moving on to the next one, the 4th linebacker of the 1st round, Patrick Queen. Now, a lot of people are jumping on the Patrick Queen train, but let's look at his college career. So this is partially what makes me skeptical about him. So he wasn't a starter his freshman or sophomore year. He started games the end of his sophomore year, but then coming into his junior year, he still could not win the starting job over Michael Divinity. Michael Divinity won the job. It's just Patrick Queen played so well throughout the season that he ended up taking the job over. So Patrick Queen still, he wasn't even the leading tackler on his team. We'll get to that in a little bit. But he, I don't know. He's incredibly versatile. He's a good cover guy. He's athletic, sideline to sideline. He's quick. He runs like a 4.5 40. He has very weak play strength. That's what makes me worried about him going in the NFL. Like he gets swallowed up by big blockers. If a lineman gets to the second level, he's gone. He disappears. He's too upright when he tackles, which forces him to be. He gets stiff armed easily, but because again his strength. So I don't know. He's athletic and he can move and he can cover. He does a lot, but he's being drafted at pick 16. So the beginning of, I'm sorry, 15. So before Isaiah Simmons, he's the LB1. He's going as the LB1. He wasn't even the leading tackler on his team in college. He couldn't win the starting job his first year, but he landed in a beautiful spot with Baltimore. So Baltimore let C.J. Mosley walk last year. They let Patrick Onwuasor leave this year. So they were about to put out L.J. Fort and Chris Board. So they ended up spending 2 picks, one on Patrick Queen and one on Malik Harrison, who we'll get to later. But Patrick Queen, I worry about him, his strength at the next level. I think he's going to just be a guy that covers more for this linebacker group. He's definitely going to be a starter, but he's going way too high. He's going way, way, way too high. And I'm actually holding off on him as well. I'm a kind of guy that when it comes to rookie linebackers, I'm going to wait till I find like value, like great value. And this next guy is where we start to find our value. Willie Gay Jr. Watch his tape. That's all I can say. He was drafted at the tail end of the second round, 63rd overall by the Chiefs. So he is kind of unknown, more because of the fact he had some off-field issues, some suspension issues. He only played 5 games his junior year. But watch his tape. His tape is phenomenal. He can cover well. He's athletic as anything. He has great pre-snap processing. He's a playmaker. I mean, he's literally played in, 28 games. He has 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions, 6 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss. He's just a guy, he's all over the place. He's all over the field. And his situation he came into is beautiful for a man of his skill set. So he's drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at their linebacker group. It's horrendous when it comes to coverage. Anthony Hitchens, good in run defense. That's about it. Can't cover. Damian Wilson, good run defense. Can't cover. That's about it. Reggie Ragland, don't even get me started. He's fallen so far down the depth chart because he is probably the worst on the team in coverage, that's a bad thing. That's a really bad thing. Like Hitchens is terrible in coverage, and Wilson's just a little better, but nobody's a good cover guy. They started playing last year a lot of 3 safety sets just because in passing downs they were taking linebackers off the field. Now, as of right now, the inside linebackers are Damian Wilson and Anthony Hitchens. I don't think that's going to last. Willie Gay is far too versatile. You can put him on the field. He's going to make more plays than these guys. He's going to be able to cover when you need him to. And he has potential to be the LB1 because of his situation. Teams are going to be down playing the Chiefs. He's just going to have a chance to make plays. He's going as the 4th linebacker taken, pick 34. So if I've already loaded up the first 2 rounds, if I got 2 really good offensive players and I need a linebacker, Willie Gay is going to be the first guy that I reach for. So I love his skill set. I love his ability to cover, especially in regards to the team he was drafted. So he has the chance to be the best linebacker. I personally believe he is the best linebacker on this team because of his versatility and his athleticism. And I don't think it's going to take Coach Reed too long to realize that, and he's going to just play his best players. He's defending a Super Bowl. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. He's going to have his best players on the field, and Willie Gay gives them the best opportunity to have a better defense. Their defense is where they struggled last year. Patrick Mahomes and the offense carried this team, but you add Willie Gay in the middle, and then you have Frank Clark, newly re-signed Chris Jones, Tyrann Mathieu in the back end, Juan Thornhill coming back, who showed some signs of life. It's a team that looks pretty good. They do. I'm impressed. I love the pick with Willie Gay, and I think he has an opportunity to really make a splash in year one. So then you go 2 picks later, at the beginning of the 3rd round, the Bengals select Logan Wilson, the first of the 3 linebackers the Bengals took. So Wilson's got a nice situation. The Bengals don't really have a great linebacker group. But before we get to that, let's look at his college resume. Logan Wilson, an absolute animal. 4-year starter, 409 total tackles, 35.5 for a loss, 7 sacks, 10 interceptions, 14 passes defended, 5 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, and 3 defensive touchdowns. That's doing everything very well. So he's incredibly smart. He's got great range. He's a hammer downhill. He makes you think twice about hitting the hole. He's got very good instincts. He's got a super good football IQ. He hits the gaps with a vengeance. But the Bengals kind of have a sticky situation. So they have last year's 3rd round pick, Jermaine Pratt, who played well last year in spurts, but he wasn't great in coverage. But he's likely going to be able to get the first crack starting. Which spot, I'm not sure. They also signed journeyman Josh Bynes. So Josh Bynes is a guy, 30 years old, but he's come in and everywhere he goes, he plays well. So he played with Arizona, was it 2 years ago? And had a very productive season until he got injured. Then last year he signed late with the Ravens, and he finished the season very strong. And this year the Bengals need some sort of veteran presence. So they're going to have somebody in the middle of that defense that's going to have a head on their shoulders, and that's Josh Bynes. Josh Bynes knows what to do. He's going to be calling the plays. It's not going to be Pratt, which probably leaves Bynes as the middle linebacker. I see Pratt playing strong side to start the season. I do think Logan Wilson starts the season as a starter. I think he's going to play weak side, which is okay. So he's okay to draft. He's the 6th linebacker going off the board. He's going as pick 37. So he's going to be at the first pick of the 4th round, which I'm okay going. Go ahead and grab yourself Logan Wilson if you can. He does have 2 other rookies, Keem Davis-Gaither and Marcus Bailey, that he has to fight with, but he's by far the most decorated and the most versatile. Marcus Bailey, don't sleep on him. He's good, but he's coming off a pretty bad injury. So Logan Wilson, he should be a starter. He's going late enough. He's a value guy that I'm going to go for, 4th round. Some people are taking him earlier, but that's the earliest I'm going to go for him. I'm not going to jump. So I was talking earlier about Patrick Queen and how he wasn't even the leading tackler on his team. And I'm going to talk about the guy who was. So Jacob Phillips. Who is he? Nobody really knew about him before the season. There was all this talk of Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen wasn't even starting the beginning of the season. Jacob Phillips is a 2-year starter. 2-year starter with LSU. Led the team, not only the team in tackles last year, he led the SEC in tackles last year. The entire SEC, the best conference in football, he led them in tackles. He finished his junior year with 113 tackles, 7.5 for a loss, 1 sack, and 1 pass defended with a forced fumble. Now, his playmaking doesn't seem to be up to snuff with some of these other guys, but I mean, he led the SEC in tackles. So the Browns seem to recognize it a little bit. They took him in the 3rd round, 97th overall. And I think it's a good pick. I really do. I like Jacob Phelps. He's going undrafted in rookie drafts right now, and which is kind of crazy. So if you get the 6th round rookie draft, the guy who led the SEC in tackles and is a 3rd round pick, he's got draft capital, is going undrafted because Patrick Queen was the guy who was talked about. So I don't know. So he's falls into a group of young linebackers. Mack Wilson, who was taken in the 5th round last year, which was a big drop for him. He dropped. Like, that was crazy. But I personally had him graded as a 2nd round pick, but he dropped to the 5th. And they also drafted Sion Takitaki last year, drafted him in the 3rd round, which was unbelievable. I actually had him as a 5th round prospect. Kind of crazy. But when injuries hit the team, Christian Kirksey, when he left, they were wondering, like, was it Takitaki, the 3rd rounder that was going to go in? No, Mack Wilson won the starting job, and he played well. He had, I think, close to 90 tackles last season. He's going to be running the defense in his 2nd year. Mack Wilson is. I think he's going to play the middle. He's gonna run the defense. I think Takitaki, even though he barely played, he was more of a special teamer last year. He did play a little bit at the end of the season, and he showed some signs of life. But I think he's more of just like a run stopping, get into the backfield kind of guy, set the edge. So he's gonna play strong side for me. I think he moves in the strong side. I mean, outside of that, they have BJ Goodson, who's I think on his 3rd team in as many years, and he's started last year for the Packers. Who knew? He didn't show up in the box score anywhere. So BJ Goodson's just going to be depth. So Mack Wilson's going to start middle. Takitaki at strong side. I think it's going to be Jacob Phillips on the weak side. They're going to use his height. He's 6'4", and he's only 221 pounds, but he could tack on some weight. But he's 6'4", so they can use I think they're going to use him in coverage quite a bit, covering tight ends. He's going to be a starting weak side linebacker in the AFC North, and he's going undrafted. I mean, this is speculation that he's going to start right now, but I don't see. I mean, who's going to start over him? BJ Goodson? I don't think they spent a 3rd rounder on somebody to sit behind BJ Goodson, at least not for the entire season. So Jacob Phillips is a absolute steal, especially if you can get him on waivers after the draft. But I'm okay with taking him in the 5th round because if he's going on draft, nobody wants him. So I'll jump on the 5th just to make sure he's on my roster because, like, again, he led the SEC in tackles. That's a tough thing to do. There's always talent in the SEC. So let's go to my favorite value at linebacker in this draft. We're going to go with Malik Harrison out of Ohio State, the 2nd linebacker taken by the Baltimore Ravens, pardon me. So he ended up going with the very next pick, 98th overall in the 3rd round. He's being drafted as the 7th linebacker with an ADP of 47. That's literally the 2nd to last pick of the draft, or the 2nd to last pick of the 4th round. That's unbelievable. Look at his situation. So, like I said earlier, Patrick Queen is going to be the coverage linebacker for the Ravens, which leaves Malik Harrison to play a role that he played in Ohio State. What he was meant to do is just get into the backfield, just run defense, get into the backfield, wreak havoc. He's okay in coverage. He understands zone concepts. He's not a man coverage guy. He has no place in man coverage, but he understands zone concepts. He understands depth. He can do it. And with a little bit of coaching, he's a smart guy. He can learn. But over his past 2 seasons, he had 156 tackles with 25 for a loss. 25 tackles for a loss in his last 2 seasons. And he was just wreaking havoc in the backfield. He's probably going to start next to Patrick Queen with the Ravens. And Patrick Queen's going to be the guy covering. I don't think Malik Harrison's ever going to have to cover. It's just going to be if they're disguising. He's going to be blitzing. He's going to just be hitting the gaps. He's going to be stuffing the line. I mean, he's just going to be a tackle machine. I think 100 tackles is easily achievable for Malik Harrison, and he's going in the 4th round, the end of the 4th round. So you can possibly get a 100 tackle guy at the end of the 4th round. I think he's going to have more tackles than Patrick Queen. He's going to lead the Baltimore Ravens in tackles. I'm going to call that right now. He's going to lead the Baltimore Ravens in tackles. They don't have anybody great on the back end. Chuck Clark's not going to be a Buda Baker type of guy. So it's going to be one of the linebackers, and it's going to be Malik Harrison. So fire him up at the end of the 4th round. If you had to trade back up into the 4th round, get rid of your 5th and your 6th, get Malik Harrison. Just, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to appreciate it. It's going to make you happy. So of all these linebackers taken in the first 3 rounds, these are the guys I think who are going to be relevant. These are the guys who are going to actually have first-year success. Who I'm taking, the guys that I'm really reaching for are the last 4 of the linebackers taken, but I'm going to, in order, I'm grabbing Malik Harrison, Willie Gay, Logan Wilson, Jacob Phillips. Just because Malik Harrison's value is so good. Willie Gay has such a great opportunity. Logan Wilson, I mean, it's a little murky. I mean, the only thing I worry with him is that small school pedigree, but I mean, his ability's there. You can see it. And Jacob Phillips, his playmaking is a little sketchy for me, but his value going undrafted is unbelievable. So Isaiah Simmons, remarkable football player, but murky situation. Kenneth Murray, he was traded up for, but again, the Chargers, they run so many situational lineups that I'm going to let him go too. He's going too early. Grab offense early in this draft, guys. Jordan Brooks has no place being drafted. He's in such a weird situation with that team. The Seahawks and Pete Carroll, you guys are nuts. I'm sorry. See you later. You have a good team. You do, but it's Russell Wilson. Patrick Queen, great situation. Not great tape. Good tape, very good tape, but too many question marks for me. And Malik Harrison, he has a tackle hog next to him. So, again, if I'm drafting linebackers, I'm drafting of the 9 linebackers taken in the first 3 rounds. I'm taking the guys taken at the end of the 2nd and later. No first-round guys for me. I'm in these rookie drafts, I am just tacking on offense early. So, if you have any other questions for any of the linebackers that are going to be relevant first season, hit me up. Attack my DMs. I'm there for it. But I'll come back next episode. Next episode, I'm going to be talking to some of the guys who were taken 4th round and later. It's going to be stash guys, people on your taxi squads, people with upside that aren't going to start right away, but are in situations where they can thrive. That's going to be next week. So, or maybe not next week, next episode. So make sure you tune in, listen to the IDP update again. And I'm just going to keep hammering on these rookies. And maybe after that, we'll keep moving on with some more rookie defensive prospects, because there's some really talented guys in this draft, and there's some real nice value to be had. So make sure you check out any of my written content. It's at idpguys.org and dynastyfootballdigest.com. Make sure you subscribe to dynastytradecalculator.com, because at IDP Guys, we have given our ADP values. We teamed up with the Dynasty Trade Calculator, and they now have IDP trade values. I've written a couple of articles on it now for a little bit of reference. I had sell highs and I have buy lows that should be coming out within the next couple of days. Check those out, and it gives you a reference as to what that calculator can do for you. It's amazing. Make sure you subscribe to IDP Guys and Dynasty Football Digest. We have great tools. We have the calculator for one with Dynasty Trade Calculator. We have we're gonna have start charts. We're gonna have we have ADP. We have rookie ADP, combined veteran ADP. We have rankings that are over 700 players. We now have Debbie. Thank you to Eric and Hollywood. They've been killing it. Make sure you check out Debbie Edge Crushers. Make sure you check out the IDP Lounge. Make sure you check out Dynasty Football Digest Pod. Make sure you check out IDP Guys Pod. I mean, we have a lot going on between the two websites. It's a beautiful thing. And yeah, make sure you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button to everything and check out the sites. So from Big Three, IDP Guys, Dynasty Football Digest, and Writer Digest, thank you very much for coming to the second episode of the IDP Update, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a collaboration between the Big Three Network and the Writer Digest Network. Follow at Big Three Network on Twitter to find more great audio podcasts, and subscribe to the Writer Digest Network on YouTube for tons of league-winning fantasy football video shows.